the High Court just dramatically increased Americans' right to bear arms. In a 6-3 viewpoint, with the court's Republican-appointed justices, the court ruled that a New York City law that heavily restricts the ability to lug a hidden handgun in public violates the Constitution. This choice is a large bargain. Formerly, the court had only said that the Constitution safeguarded the capability to have a weapon inside the home for protection. In that decision, which came down in 2008, the justices didn't rule on how guns brought outside the house might be controlled. It took virtually 15 years for the justices to find back to that inquiry. Today they have.
The Supreme Court says everybody has a right, if they're a responsible adult, to carry a gun in public. You might still deny a permit to a number of people, but you'd have to have a special reason, a drug issue, a drug problem, or a mental health problem, or some history of violence, prior convictions.
The second modification protects a person's right to bring a handgun for protection outside the residence. Legislation such as New York's, which required people who wanted a permit to lug a hidden pistol in public to reveal they have a great reason, are no longer permitted.
I am disappointed in the Supreme Court gun decision. There is one little bit of solace in the minority making up the majority opinion has laid out that it affects not every state. It affects only 40 states. A lot of states it affects.
That doesn't indicate there is no chance to regulate the transportation of guns in public, just as Brett Kavanaugh stated that explicitly in his agreeing viewpoint. However, the recent judgment does transform the means policies are reviewed. Thomas's viewpoint states regulations need to be historically aligned with the second modification. That indicates when they check out a contemporary gun policy, courts will need to find out if one more, sensibly similar regulation was passed earlier in the country's history.
Decision may have opened an additional river that is going to feed the sea of gun violence in our city and in our nation. Now is the time for every elected official who cares about the safety of all Americans to come together and respond thoroughly and comprehensively to this appalling decision.
Formerly, courts had actually additionally taken into consideration whether a regulation could be warranted for various other factors, yet that second layer of factor to consider is no longer enabled. What all of this suggests in method, however, will have to be functioned out by the lower courts, which means there will likely be a flooding of new litigation over gun constraints that might come right back to the Supreme Court.
How could this ruling impact states like California?
It's going to impact the state very, very significantly. What it's going to do is now open that door up for those who would normally not be able to get a CCW and now be able to get one, and the CCW, so carry concealed weapons permit, because they don't have to have a good cause statement now. Now anybody that can pass a background check and can take the class and pass the class, you will be able to get one.
As with several Supreme Court judgments, we won't recognize the complete ramifications of these days' judgments for a long period of time. 5 other states as well as the District of Columbia have regulations like New York's, and they will certainly have to pass new laws for individuals who intend to carry handguns in public. That in itself is not a little point, since the states consist of the Golden State, New Jersey as well as Massachusetts, which are heavily populated states with vast cities.
It's not the gun owner, it's not the carry pistol permit holders, it's the criminals that are causing the violence and the gun problem in New York State.
But the traditional justices could have gone more as well as reduce a massive swath of weapon regulations instantly, which they did not. The judgment does, nonetheless, produce a number of new possibilities for supporters that intend to restrict states' capacity to establish who can bring a weapon and where.
Well, one thing that the Supreme Court said in this opinion was that the only gun laws that are constitutionally permissible are the kinds of gun laws we had in the 1700s and 1800s, or laws that were sufficiently similar to those laws. And that really calls into question a number of gun laws.
So the future will depend, at least partly, on what state legislators attempt to do. The risk for them, certainly, is that the next Supreme Court ruling might increase weapon legal rights even additionally.